It's almost the end of the March, Minecraft Live has ended, and that means one thing: a new game drop is on its way. This time it's version 26.1, Tiny Takeover. This update introduces new baby mobs, specifically their models and textures, the ability to stop baby mobs from growing, and a few other simple improvements. Let's take a look together at what the developers have added. As always, you'll find timecodes in the description. Pick what interests you, subscribe, and let's get started on discovering Minecraft in a whole new way. I suppose we'll start with the blocks, as usual. Believe me, there aren't as many of them this time as we'd like. The first and only block is the golden dandelion. It looks like an ordinary flower, but you won't find it growing in the wild anywhere in the world. To obtain this flower, the player will need to craft it. The crafting recipe is as simple as can be. You'll need just one ordinary dandelion and 8 golden nuggets to get one flower. If you happen to find yourself without any gold but only have emeralds, and wandering trader is nearby, you can buy one flower for just 2 emeralds. The main and perhaps only feature of this flower is related to baby mobs. If you use a golden dandelion on a baby mob, its growth will stop completely. You'll see lovely green particles falling down, and the flower itself will of course disappear. This means you can easily create your own full-scale zoo with all sorts of animals. However, there is a reverse effect if you change your mind. Simply use another golden dandelion on the same mob. The green particles will fly upwards and the baby will start growing again. However, there is an important limitation. The flower magic does not work on undead babies, piglins or villagers, although, for example, Hoglin babies interact with the flower without any issues. It's funny that even though it's a flower, ordinary bees aren't interested in it at all. If the players hold the flower in their hands, the bee won't even take a notice, not to mention collecting pollen from these flowers. Yes, it is a flower, which means you can extract dye from it. In our case, it's yellow. Of course, it can also be used in a recipe for the suspicious stew. After eating it, you will gain the saturation effect. As this flower is golden, piglins will happily take it for themselves, but they won't give you anything in return. Now let's move on to the changes. Remember name tags? You used to be able to find them in chests in various structures and buy them from villagers. Well, you can safely forget about that. Starting with this update, every player can craft them using a sheet of paper and either iron nuggets, golden nuggets or copper nuggets. Choose whichever you prefer. Just to clarify, the texture doesn't change depending on the material you choose. The addition of this crafting option has, unsurprisingly, led to a number of other balance changes. For example, the usual master level librarian will no longer sell you name tags. Instead, the wandering trader has taken over this role and will happily give you the item for just 1 emerald. I should note that when switching from the old version to the new one, the villagers trade option are saved, so if you already had a master level librarian who sold name tags, there is no need to worry. Their trade options will remain unchanged. And to finally bring some order to economy, the developers have completely removed name tags from chests in ancient cities and woodland mansions. Stonecutters have become much more convenient. Now ordinary stone and deep slate can be directly crafted into polished versions, bricks or cobbled variants, bypassing unnecessary intermediate stages. The same applies to stairs, slabs and walls. This is a genuinely useful change that has been a real improvement. A trumpet has appeared in the game. No, not that one. I'm talking about the musical instrument for the note block. We can get trumpet sounds using copper blocks, but the coolest feature here is that the sound depends directly on the oxidation level of the copper block. If you use regular, pure copper, you'll hear a classic trumpet. Exposed copper will produce the sound of a distorted trumpet. But if the copper is already weathered, the instrument will change to a real trombone with a lower range. And quite logically, fully oxidized copper will give you a sound of a distorted trombone. Experts have already managed to create masterpieces like this. What every self-respecting Minecrafter has been waiting for. The very reason this update was needed in the first place, and the reason Minecraft has won the Best Live Service award for the 7th year running. The texture brightness of the screen has been updated. I consider this a major step forward for the game. Seriously though, yes, one of the changes was indeed that the screen has become more visible than before. Has it improved things? Well, it's certainly more visible, but it could hurt buildings and traps that rely on strings. Of course, we shouldn't ignore the elephant in the room. That's it, you're free to go. Thanks for taking part in this video. I'm talking about the new baby mobs, which is why the developers have labeled version 26.1 as the cutest game drop in the world. Literally all the baby mobs have received new versions. We'll start of course with the cheeks. In my opinion, they've turned out best. They're literally little cubes that looks cute and funny. The focus was very much on them, as the promotional art features chicks everywhere. There are 3 types of chickens in the game: the standard, the cold and the warm. Each of them has received a new variant. Since we started with farm animals, let's continue down the list. Calf. As you know, there are several types of cows in Minecraft. Including the mushroom variants, there are as many as 5 types. Each of them has undergone changes. They differ significantly from their predecessors. The piglet looks excellent too. In fact, it has undergone the fewest changes of all the farm animals. Its body is slightly larger, its head smaller, its snout more compact, and the new eye design certainly suits the pink piglet perfectly. The Go Kid has turned out well. The old model of the Go Kid certainly differed from the adult version. The young one did not have horns. The new model looks far better than the previous one. It has horns, but they are small, the face has become slightly smaller, and the goat's beard has disappeared. The new 1 pixel eye version is also quite suitable, as most players didn't notice anyway that the goat had 2 pixel eyes. Of course, there's always a fly in the ointment. Today there will be plenty of such flies, but among the farm animals, it's the lumps. Here the changes are visible to the naked eye. As far as I'm concerned, they look worse. Whereas in the previous model their faces seems to stick out slightly from the fur, here the fur and the face form is single texture, with no raised elements. This creates a sort of plush effect on the mob. Things are a bit different with the kittens. I think you all know there are a lot of them in the game, as many as 11, and every cat variant has been completely redesigned. Overall, they all look better, but the Persian cat really amused me because, to put it bluntly, it has no nose. I realized that this is a real-life breed of cat and the old version didn't have a nose either, but it still feels a bit odd to look at it. Although for almost the entire development cycle of this update, the new kitten's head were much larger than those of the adult cats. As it turned out, this was a bug that has recently been fixed. Now we can turn our attention to the puppies. There are 9 of them, each different not only in appearance but also in temperament. As far as I'm concerned, the puppies have turned out very well too, although the rusty version of the puppy reminds me far too much of a fox, perhaps because of its coloring. But my favorites remains the pale and ashen versions. The aggressive puppy does look a bit odd, of course. Before he seems possessed, and now he looks like he turned into a vampire. By the way, there was a funny bug in the first snapshots. The tamed puppy's collar would slip down when he sat still, making him look like he was wearing underpants, but that's been fixed of course. Foals have also been updated. There are as many as 35 horse breeds in Minecraft, so I don't think it's worth showing each one. Sometimes they differ by just a few spots on their backs and a slight shade of color. In addition to the usual foals, there are new baby zombie horse foals and skeleton horse foals. I didn't like the new models for any of the foals. Again, the problem is most likely the flat muzzle, or rather their skulls. In the old version it was more elongated, but now it's just rectangle, which raises questions. The strangest things about all this is that zombie horse and skeleton horse foals never spawn in the regular world. They can only be summoned using a command or a summoning axe. What's more, the golden dandelion doesn't work on these mobs. Why did they add them? I have no idea. Let's not too stray far and I'll show you the donkey foal and the mule foal straight away. Unlike horses, each mob here has only one variant. Although they've inherited the new face from horses, it still looks just as rectangular. I don't know why the designers decided that this version is much better than the narrower snout found on adult specimens. It turned out how it turned out. The baby camel has naturally been given an update too. At first glance, it seems nothing has changed, but if you look closely, you'll notice that its face is now a single piece. Its ears are larger and most importantly, the hump has a gun. As I understand it, this has been done for the sake of realism, as most species of baby camels do not have a noticeable hump. What's more, it has become much lighter in color. After all, a camel husk recently appeared in the game, so it makes sense that it had its own smaller version, which couldn't spawn on its own. Therefore, the developers took a different approach and simply removed this mob's baby from the game. If you try to summon it using a command, the adult version will appear. So the creation of zombie horse foals and skeleton horse foals raises even more questions. Llamas in Minecraft came in 5 types: brown, cream, grey, white and trader. Each has received a new model and texture. I mentioned this back at the start of development, but llamas have always been somewhat comical mobs, especially their babies, which seem small yet so serious at the same time. The new models look fine to me, but they've lost that charm of being serious and comical. Ocelot caps have also been updated. I can really follow them, they look adorable. I wouldn't say the old one was bad, on the contrary, it still had some charming features, but the current model is a bit better, although it's literally just a kitten model. As you know, there are two foxes in Minecraft, the red fox and the cold fox. Both fox cubs have received new models. They are identical, different only in their textures. They already had a slightly silly look about them because of their eyes. Here it seems to have remained the same, but for some reason these eyes really bother me. They haven't forgotten about the bees either. You'd think there'd be nowhere left to go, but as it turned out, there is. The cubs have become noticeably smaller, and when I look at them up close, I got the impression that their faces had been slightly cropped. There is one pixel row missing below the eyes, but then again, that might just be my perception. It's good that they didn't choose one of the old models, and for that I'm grateful. Polar bear cub, how should I put it? Well, it's there. Let's be honest, the adult model itself isn't exactly a thing of a beauty. To me, it looks a bit stooped and awkward, but the eyes are fine. I don't know what to say, but its torso reminds me of a huge bedside table. No more, no less. Panda cubs have certainly not been overlooked. There are 7 pandas in total, and the things are a bit different with them. This is most likely because the texture features different colors, so it doesn't create the same impression as with the polar bear cub. However, the baby's animation can sometimes look frightening. For example, a playful panda might start twisting its head like the character from the film The Exorcist. It's a rather eerie sight. We mustn't forget about rabbits. There are quite a few of them in the game too. Every variant has received new models and textures, even the killer bunny, which can only be summoned using a command. I'll note that even the adult rabbits have received new models and textures. As far as I'm concerned, it's much better now. The old versions were, to be honest, very outdated. The only thing I miss in the new models is the convex nose. For some reason, it's now rendered using a texture. What's more, the rabbits have also been given new movement animations. They can stand on their hind legs, look around and jump around happily. Snifflet, aka Sniffer's cub, now looks better. Firstly, his texture has become softer, if I may put it that way. The foliage on his back is slightly smaller and a bit brighter, and his sniffer animation is more comical, perhaps. His nose or beak, I still haven't figured out exactly what it is, lifts up a few blocks, which looks rather amusing. The Armadillo in Minecraft currently comes in only one variety, and the old baby model look quite logical. The new model hasn't reinvented the wheel. They've simply made the body smaller, toned down the color slightly, and reduce the size of the head. The legs seems to be the same as before. Now we can confidently move on to the aquatic mobs. Let's start with axolotls. There are 5 types, and as far as I'm concerned, they've got it right with the axolotls. The new model looks natural. It's small and swift, and importantly, death animations have been added. After taking damage, they play dead, and during this time they regenerate health. Dolphin calves appeared not so long ago. They were simply smaller version of the adults, just like all the others. In the new model, everything remains as before, but the size of the body and rostrum has been reduced slightly. Yes, I decided to show off a bit. And of course, the eyes are now just 1 pixel wide. As far as I'm concerned, the cutest mob of them all is the turtle. The model was already smallest of them all, but now it's been refined and made far better. The head is noticeably larger, the body is smaller, and the legs thinner. Everything been done very well here. I can fault a thing. I guess the glowing and regular squid can be put into one section. 2 quite similar mobs. Everything here has also become much better than it was. The regular squid looks like the laziest, the more carefree creature in the world, judging by its face, of course. The lower part of its face looks very much like a smile to me, and because of its slanted eyes, it looks as if it's slightly drunk. The same cannot be said of the glowing squid. Obviously, it doesn't have a face as such, but many people take this as its eyes and mouth. In my opinion, a small dark line separating the sides could have been added here. What do you think? Of course, the villagers have babies too, and each one has been given its own unique model. Obviously, the babies don't have professions, they all share the same texture, but that doesn't stop them from being adorable. I especially like the taiga and cold variants because they've pulled their hoods up and look even cuter. The jungle variant has even got a little hat, made from Ocelot fur, as far as I can tell. Now it's time to move on to the hostile mobs. This includes zombies, zombie villagers, husks, and Gurgle. Yes, that's the official name for the drowned baby zombie. I have no complaints about the zombie villager, it inherits its new model, but I do have issue with the rest. Every version of the zombie looks rather poor. Their heads are somehow too small and out of proportion. That said, in the 7th snapshot, the developers credited what I considered to be perfect model of a zombie, but later, as I understand it, because they had to increase the hitbox for this model, the baby zombies couldn't pass through a single block. So in the next snapshot they lowered that hitbox, and in the one after that they added a new model, and in in the one after that, they added a new model. Why and for what reason? The question remains open. What about the babies of the nether mobs? Well, they've been changed too. Let's start with Hoglin and Zoglin. I've got almost no complaints about the new models for these mobs. They don't seem to have changed much, but at the same time they look a bit fresher. It's noticeable that the tusks are slightly smaller and the head has been lowered. The only thing I didn't really like is the white stripes on their backs. While they look somewhat natural on Zoglin, you might think they're bones. On Hoglin they seem a bit out of place. As I understand it, they were inspired by wild piglets that have such stripes on their bodies, but here they seem a bit unnecessary. The babies of piglins and zombified piglins are, so to speak, a bit chubby. Yes, it's as simple as that. The designers thought it would look better that way and added a few extra pounds. I can't add anything else. The designers have done that for me. I saved the most interesting bit for last, the Strider Cub. What can I say? I can say that it's truly dreadful version of Radish or Beetroot. It's the most worthless and ugly mob in the entire game. If the developers introduced the term ugly cute into the game, then only one word applies to this model: ugly. I liked how the artist had already managed to change its texture and dye its hair green. It looks just like a beetroot. Overall, please let me know which models from this drop you liked and which you didn't. I'd be interested to read your thoughts. I should point out that all armor pieces now have unique textures and models when worn by baby zombies, husks, gurgles, zombie villagers, piglins and zombie piglins. However, any armor trims are not displayed even if they exist. I think it's worth mentioning, just in case, why the Minecraft version suddenly jumped to 26.1 rather than the usual 1.21 or 1.22. Those who follow development closely know what's going on, but those who just pop in from time to time might be a bit confused. The thing is, starting from 2026, Minecraft has switched to a new numbering system. In short, version numbers will be tied to the calendar year. The format will look like this. The first two digits are the year of release. For example, all updates in 2026 will start with the number 26. This will be followed by the drop number within that year, and the final digit will be the hotfix number. So the summer drop will be numbered 26.2. No new music has been added in this game update. I believe that new tracks will be added in the summer update. Nevertheless, an integral part of every game update since version 1.13, a new panorama in main menu, is present here. It's bright and colorful, and you can see lots of cubs on it, although I still don't understand how the Axolotl cub managed to climb that mountain. And if it feels like you've seen it somewhere before, it's most likely because of version 1.19. There too, the cherry grove was used as the main biome. Although they chose sunset back then, here it's a different location and a lovely sunny day. Although the babies could have been moved a bit closer, they are too small. On top of everything else, a new world format has been introduced, so please take a note. If you're transferring your world from the old version to the new one, the game will prompt you to make a backup copy and only then convert the world. It's nothing complicated. World files have become more structured and are easier to work with. I should point out that once a world is converted, the new world format won't run on older versions, so please be careful. That brings us to the end of update 26.1. Yes, there were plenty of the other technical changes that I haven't mentioned, as I'm not particularly familiar with this topic, but I'll include a link in the description so you can read about them in more detail. Something tells me that from now on, Minecraft spring drops will be roughly like this, small and not particularly impressive in terms of content. I hope the next spring drop will be better. Do you like this update? What would you like to see added and what would you like to see removed? Share your thoughts in the comments. While you wait for the next video, check out these ones, they are just as interesting. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, smash that like button and hit the notification bell. See you soon, because we discovered Minecraft in a whole new way.